All right, everybody, welcome back to Matty Moolah, little Christmas edition here, hanging out and cooking some ribs on the smoker. And it's got a few, probably a half hour until those bad boys are ready to come off. And with that, then they're going to have to sit for half hour to an hour, just hanging out and cooling off before we can dive into those for dinner. But hopefully, everyone is having a phenomenal, and Merry Christmas, and hopefully a safe one as well. And just wanted to hop on, say hello, see if anybody had any sort of questions. It could be life related, it could be stock related, but overall, just really excited about the year that we just had and the year that we're going to be going into. And I'm sure we'll talk more and more about it as I've started to think about 2024 and as I've started to think about where we can go as a community and where we can go as a collective group of investors and doing best as our putting our foot forward, right? I think we've learned a lot in 2021, 2022. 2023 was obviously a great year, and I've learned a lot over the past 10 years investing so far. So excited to see Dex, Morrow, Kelly, Akechi. Great to see all of you. Hope you guys are having a phenomenal Christmas time. And as always, it's I don't know, the older I get with Christmas, like I'm just hanging out at the house today. I decided not to go to Pennsylvania to go hang out with my family. I was just like, you know what? I just need to decompress, get away from work, and just do my own thing. So I've been having an absolute blast just calling family, calling friends, cooking, and just blasting Frank Sinatra on the sound system throughout the house, just relaxing. I'm just in this great, joyous, festive mood. And the older I get, the more I just like reminisce and have nostalgia about Christmas. And, it's just been a good time today. Even though I'm just hanging out at the house by myself, I'm not lonely. I'm not, in my tears. I'm calling friends and family, having a good old time. I talked to one of my coworkers and he started talking about work. I was like, my guy, no work. Let's talk. He was like, we were shooting this shit about Amazon Prime, what's good, what's bad. So if you guys have suggestions, by all means, right? I've been watching Reacher. So I'm just catching on up on stuff because I've either been like doing Cash Flow Chronicles or I've been doing, Palantir Weeklies and occupying a lot of my time in the nighttime. So it's like I've just been catching up on all these things that my buddies have been telling me about. Which reminds me, I need to watch Terminal List. My buddies reminded me about that one. But really excited that you guys are here. Austin, what's going on, my guy? Merry Christmas. Davis, Merry Christmas. Brett, Merry Christmas. Sean, Merry Christmas. Alvarado, Merry Christmas, my friend. Nate, hope you guys are having a phenomenal time. And let me know, what's the meal for tonight? Do you guys more like Christmas Eve guys? Or are you guys more Christmas Day guys? Do you not celebrate Christmas? That's also an opportunity. I know not everyone celebrates Christmas. Juan, welcome. No fam hanging for me today. And I still am decided whether or not I'm going to fly back to Pennsylvania and hang out because I still have to have what me and my buddy since high school, we bought the Airbnb, right? And he's like, we need to do partner dinner. And I'm like, dude, like we could do this over like Discord or something like that. He's like, it's an opportunity for us to go to a steakhouse and spend a little bit of our money that we made from Airbnb this year and buy ourselves a nice dinner at a nice steakhouse. And so he's just like, I told him, I was like, I might not be coming up, man. He's just like, you're gonna skip partner dinner? And I'm just like, dude, like we don't need it. Like everything's on Airbnb and VRBO. Like I don't know why. It's just an excuse for him and me to have a few cocktails and get dinner. But it'll be fun. But either way, I still might make it up. It's just I needed to decompress, and it's been fun just hanging out at the house the past couple days. Yeah, hanging out at home, the best. Just by yourself, the best days. And I told my boss. She called me Friday. And she had some news for me. And she's like, what have you been doing? She's like, you're not going home? And I'm like, no. And she's like, man, that sounds so great. And because she's got her kid, she's just like, and it just seems like sometimes we get so hyped up and we forget about what's like really important, which is like relaxing on Christmas Day. And and you still like I still reminisce about those great times going to see friends and family and like having my 15, 16 cousins in a room, and we're, literally roughhousing and, tearing down the walls in some cases actually, and in some cases just roughhousing. But at the same time, it's just like it's nice to just be able to listen to what you want to listen to, cook what you want to cook, hang out, and just be happy that you're alive, you're well, you're doing well in life, and you have the opportunities that you have. And it's been a great day so far. Have I seen Suits? I actually really like Suits. Suits is a phenomenal one. Tamales and pozole. So I actually am regretting this because I literally so no, Patrick, and Merry Christmas, my friend. Did not have peach cobbler. I picked up some Christmas cookies. Well, not really actually Christmas cookies, but just some cookies from HEB yesterday. It's our local grocer, and there's that. And I still might get Chinese. I'm like 50-50. These ribs are going to be phenomenal. They're at 182. I need to get to 190 because I'm going to broil on some barbecue sauce. But before I pull them off, they're at 182. So it's going to be a good time with that. But I'm like, well, do I do a little bit of ribs, save those for the next couple days, and then also get Chinese? Because me and my brother, before he passed, when was that? When did we get that? We had a big family blowout one Christmas, and so Christmas was effectively canceled. And so me, my brother, and my one sister went to just go get Chinese food, and we've kind of just been like, we didn't really realize because we always normally had a phenomenal Christmas time, right? So normally we'd have a great Christmas dinner, but just this one year in particular, we had no idea. So we were just like, let's just get out of the house. We didn't realize that Chinese places, well, like most places, are open. And so my brother was like, how did you not know about this? Ben or Ren, thank you so much, my friend. I was not expecting that. I just wanted to come on and hang out. So super chat, absolutely welcomed and not necessary, but appreciated. You're the man. Thank you so much. But like, I just like found it's for the past 10 years, it's absolutely blown my mind. I want to say it was before I left to Houston, and it was like while I was still in college. So this has to be between 2009 to 2013. And ever since, I've just been like, let's just go get Chinese food, like on Christmas. Like it just seems like such a good opportunity. But yes. Oh, and speaking of this, yeah, we always did the you have to get the camcorder. It wasn't even like a digital camera. So this is like 1996 to 2000. Had to get the camcorder set up so you could like literally watch the kids enter the kitchen, go to the tree, all that sort of stuff. So it was fun. But I regret this because I was at the grocery yesterday to go pick up some loose ends, some cookies and stuff like that, just to hang out for the week. And I saw tamales, and I know that's a big Christmas thing. And I was just like, I should probably pick some up. And now I'm regretting not picking some up because anyway, it'd be cool. But I have seen Suits. I really liked Suits. And I think they do a phenomenal job of keeping it entertaining. They do a phenomenal job of having like a long arcs for all the characters, but also each show can also be watched individually to an extent. Some of them, there's a part 1, part 2, but most of the cases there's a single case in an episode, but they also do a good job with the long arc overall as well. Holidays in May, about to play Scarface on PS2. My guy, I got to look that one up. Why do I feel like I've played maybe it was Grand Theft Auto Vice City that I'm thinking of, but because they had like the Scarface mansion in there. But I'm trying to I feel like I've played Scarface before, like a video game called Scarface. Feliz Navidad, Francisco. Welcome, and hopefully you and your family are having a great time. Tim, Merry Christmas to you, my friend. Being grateful is definitely important. Costadin, 100% agreed. It's been a phenomenal Christmas thus far. Let's just see. Merry Christmas. HEB is clutch, absolutely. And we are down to the bottom, but yeah, it's been a phenomenal. Hey, June, Merry Christmas. Hopefully you're doing well. Christopher Ball, welcome, my friend. I really Merry Christmas to you as well. I really liked your post earlier about Rocket Lab and talking about the 18 vehicles and how each of that is like 27 to 40 million dollars. Sorry, 27 to 30 million dollars. And it got me thinking, what does that actually entail? And I think it's too cheap for a neutron launch, but it's at the same time too expensive for an electron. So you're like kind of in between. Like maybe it's the first contract that they've given for neutron, or maybe some of it is neutron. But then you also have to think it's like they can't commit to 18 launches for neutron in 2027 alone, but they might be able to commit to 18 launches between 2027 and 2030. But I don't think that that's what the contract entails. So anyway, I'm gonna have to do a little bit more DD about that one. Andrew, Merry Christmas, my friend. Hope everyone is doing well. John, I saw you in here, but I don't know if I said Merry Christmas to you yet. But yeah, now I'm just gonna stop reminiscing. And if you guys have any questions about stocks, I love stocks, right? I do this for fun. I don't do this for the money. Otherwise, I would have quit a long time ago. So stocks are my hobby. So if you guys want to chit chat about that, I literally have 7 degrees. So whenever this thing goes to whenever this thing goes to 189 or 190 over here, that's when I'll have to hop off, because I got to go take those ribs off the smoker, and we'll have some time after that. So it'll be a good time. Until then, we probably have half an hour to an hour to chit chat. Not sure if this has been asked a question before. What are your plans for next year? Any interesting goals that you set yourself? I kicked off with that. I was thinking I've started to reminisce. I don't have any concrete plans. I'm trying to decide. I don't know if I told you guys this. I've mentioned it in passing. I'm trying to finish a book, and it's mostly for anybody that's never really invested before and wants to honestly pursue this as a long-term opportunity. And meaning like investing for themselves for the long term. I'm more of a person that just suggests, for if you guys don't want to put in the work, that you just continue to invest in the S&P 500 and call that a day, and continuously add capital to that. And I would say that blanketly encompasses 90 to 95% of people, specifically if they don't want to like actually actively manage and stuff of the like. But there's probably that other 5 to 10% of the population, and these are made up numbers, right? I don't have direct numbers. These are just my mental kind of like buckets that I'm putting people in. Then there's the other 5 to 10% of people that truly need to like hone in on that non-specific, right? Non-specific investment plan that I just outlined, which is the S&P 500 one. So I want to finish that book. I have about 24, 25 pages of like, how do I say this, outline that I put together. I don't want it to be that long of a book. I just want it to be something where it's like very clean, concise. I don't need to drone on about a bunch of different things. And I'd love to get perspectives from other friends as well, because a lot of it's about perspective, and a lot of it's just seeing how different people and different life cycles and different criteria about what they're specifically looking to do will invest very differently. And so I would love to bring on people like Amit and Vitali and TJ, because all of them invest very differently. All of them have different objectives. All of them, have different risk tolerances as well. So having everybody's perspective would really help with that, and it allows people to sit back and truly understand about what they're looking to do instead of just lying to themselves. I think most people, they hear something that I'm doing, they hear something that somebody else is doing, and let's just put it in perspective. I've been investing for 10 years. I add thousands of dollars of capital to the portfolio every month, and have had a decently good savings rate for the majority of the time. I'm going to differ than somebody that's just starting out, right? So that perspective and what I want to get out there is truly there. Second, I've been thinking, so the book is number one. Second, I've been thinking a lot about how to expand the ability of my ability to help people. Part of that's the book, but second is like I noticed that a lot of people gravitate towards a Patreon, and you have the ability to become like a member on the Matt Money channel. But what does that actually entail? And at the moment, it doesn't really entail anything other than just being like a supporter of the channel. And so I'm like thinking, if there's an opportunity where I can have a different tier of membership within Matt Money on YouTube or whatever, where I truly do give that opportunity to have more like direct hands-on experience. And by no means can I technically advise people, but I could be at least be an opportunity for people to bounce things off of somebody. And so with that, it could be that expansion or going into Patreon, because it seems like a lot of people gravitate towards Patreon rather than a YouTube membership. And all of that, of course, is to try to get me away from, as much as I love my 9 to 5 job, I love providing energy for people. I love providing energy for the world. And I hope to eventually transition more towards like a central management role where I'm able to kind of work, in the transition of going from traditional fossil fuels to more renewables. And I vision myself for that, because I truly think that this renewable thing can work if we do it appropriately. And so, and it has been working, and the capital is going that way. Over 50% of the capital for energy infrastructure in the past year or so has actually gone towards renewables and surpassed fossil fuels for the first time. And so that is where we're headed. But at the same time, we can't immediately jump to that. So would love to figure out a way to be able to help people more hands on, because I still think that there's those folks that I can help and they can watch the streams, but there's some people I think might need a little bit more help with that. And so there's that piece of it where I hope to potentially get onto that. And then the third thing, I have some financial goals that I probably would like to increase the portfolio. Let's just see. I mean, I would love to get, and this doesn't include like capital contributions, right? I'd love to increase the portfolio 20 to 25%. That's a big ask because the rule of large numbers, right? I'd like to get my dividend income. I like where it's at, right? It's about 2% of the portfolio in terms of yield. Cost basis, yield on cost is about 2.4 to 2.5%. And I like that. But I'd like to get that dividend yield and keep it between 1.9 and like 2.1%. And it might go plus or minus a couple percent, but I don't want it to go as low as the S&P 500. Now, of course, that might be something that just inevitably happens if, say, one of my positions like Palantir, Rocket Lab, or something takes off. But there's that. And then 2024, do I need another rental? I don't need another rental in 24, but if opportunistically the mortgage rates come down enough where it's below 5.5%, I would like to remortgage my personal property because that'll give me another 200, $300 a month. And then our rental property, we've talked about refinancing as well. And that would also give us a couple $100 a month. And so that'll increase our able to take home about $2,000 to $3,000 a year additional. And we could use that to continue to hopefully buy more and more properties in the future. So I haven't come to terms 100% with it. I'd like to do more of the formal, traditional things to be able to continue to establish the Matt Money brand. And I'm not doing it for fame. I'm not doing it for any of that. I'm literally doing it to help people. I know some people are like, I want to influence. I want to do this. I want to do that. It's like, I respect that. That's their thought. I'm literally here to just try to help people. Like, if I wanted to influence or grow, it's like the only reason why I want to grow is because I would be able to help more people or get my message out to more people. It's literally that alone. And so I'm not trying to like push people towards a certain way or direction or anything like that. I want people to find their own direction. And I think a lot of that comes with maturity. And I think a lot of that just comes with watching way more content than usual. But you can also take the easy way out, like of strictly just focusing on an S&P 500 and capital contributions, etc. So I want people to find their own path because it's personal finance, right? It's not Matt finance, right? And while I have my own version of it and people might, adhere to that, I think it's going to take some time to get to there because it took me a long 10 years time, probably maybe not 10 years, but it took me like 7, 8 years time to truly understand how I wanted to structure my portfolio. So now that I've gotten there, I feel like I can truly be myself and fully understand what's at hand and how I want it to go forward. What kind of smoker? I just bought a really cheap Lexington. It's my first smoker, so I never had the ability to. I have like my mom had a smoker that we got handed from my aunt who just wanted to downsize, and it was like a cabinet smoker. I didn't hate the cabinet smoker. I just thought that I wanted something that was more traditional, and so I just went with a cheapo Pit Boss Lexington, and it's not bad. I think it's just I could see myself if I had a bigger, like one or two more people in my personal family, if I had a wife and some kids, or if I had a party where I could see myself being challenged, or at least having to like plan out more of how to use the smoker because it's pretty small. So like if you wanted to do brisket and ribs and it's going to be a little bit more difficult than that. Have you looked into Brookfield? Chris and I in our public portfolio have some Brookfield, um, but we have the preferred shares, and so if you're not familiar with Cash Flow Chronicles, for the 50 odd of you, which I don't even know if I turned on monetization for this thing, but it's not important. But let me put in the description our streaming channel. I didn't even put. I was just so excited to get on and hang out with you guys that I completely just forgot to put a complete description or anything. So I just put the description down there. So if you guys are interested in checking out our streaming channel, we have a public account that's about to be $1,100, and we're closing in on December numbers. December numbers look really good as well. So we're probably going to walk away with $300 from the channel. And so that'll probably be added, once I get clarity in the first week or two of January, and I'll move that money over into the public account. We'll be able to decide what we want to do. I actually want to trim some of the positions. I think I might tell Chris, because I don't know how many we're up to, but like it's probably like 15. I know that I love Chris and I respect a lot of what he has, but I think it's maybe we have to decide, instead of just investing in all of it, that it needs to be more focused around like 10 positions. Because right now, let me just make sure I'm not sharing my screen. Okay. Because I just don't want account numbers and stuff to be visible. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 positions. And it's like, I get it, but how concentrated in some of these things do you want to be? And maybe it's a thing where we have like a YouTube moolah trading portfolio, and then we have like a investing portfolio, because I'm more of along the lines of long-term holds, not trying to swing trade, hold things for the long term. And Chris does like to move in and out of some things, and that's perfectly fine, right? I mean, I'm not saying one is right or not. I think it's just to be able to help people follow along. It would keep things there. But for in terms of Brookfield, we have Brookfield property preferred shares for, does it say? Anyway, the ticker symbol is BPYPM, and that's where our preferred shares are listed. So yeah, there's that. But yes, June, cooking based off of the rib timing, and we got plenty of time because it's still only 182. So I think the collagen and everything's starting to melt down. So that's when it's starting to hit some sort of stall in here. So John, Merry Christmas, my friend. Also still mad I have to wait until tomorrow to get some Nutter Butters. Oh yeah, dude. I mean, I was just thinking about it because I bought some the other day and I saw them in my cabinet last night, and I was just like, hey, what's going on here? Regular listener, hopping on to say wish you happy holidays and amazing 2024. You too, my friend Mark. Merry Christmas, and I really hope that you have a phenomenal time and a safe Christmas for 2023. We're gonna have a great 2024. We're gonna wish it into existence. The past few years, I don't know about for you guys, have been rough. My guy, how are you doing, my guy? I need to. Are you in town this week? Because I'm here and I would love to get lunch with you. So I need to message you as well. So Merry Christmas. You're a dear friend, and would love to see you this week, my man. 100% Amit provides the best technical analysis. Amit's doing a good job, man. I like what he's been doing with the channel, and he's growing his community, and they're a great set of folks. A great set of folks. Tim DeYoung, any thoughts on HBI? Been hearing about an activist investor. Company is highly leveraged, yet one of the top sellers of apparel on Amazon. Let's look. HBI. I don't know anything about HBI. Oh, Hanes. Hell yeah. I don't know. I'm thinking of Fruit of the Loom that Big Daddy Warren is in, right? Why do I feel like he's also in Hanes? Or maybe you know who it was and not Big Daddy Warren. It might have been Michael Berry that was in Hanes. This bad boy's down, 20 odd percent. I wonder how much moolah they're making. Apparently not. 3.5% yield though, but I feel like it's difficult to not be printing money. Is Michael Burry and HBI Hanes Brands? What do I feel like? Yeah, that's what it was. So Michael Burry started to build a position in Hanes Brands in Q2 of 2023. And then he sold all of them in Q3 of 2023. And he no longer holds shares in Hanes Brands. So that's where my spidey sense was going off for Big Daddy Burry. And turns out he no longer holds it. Interesting. Wish you lots of success. You too, my friend. P.S. I'm happy to read the book when it's ready and provide your feedback. Absolutely, man. If any of you guys want to help edit or anything like that, feel free. I plan on giving out a lot of free books, probably once probably a week or something like that. I'll figure it out. But yeah, if any of you guys are interested in the book or want more thoughts about it, feel free. It'll be a good time. But for those people, I think the thing about it is for the people that feel very comfortable that they know their strategy and they sit there and they're firm and they understand it and they've been doing it for several years and they've molded it over time, it's probably not a book for you. But if you're literally a year or two into the stock market and you find yourself continuing to like flip flop and not truly understand, I'm telling you guys, we got time. This thing's only 182 degrees. And you find yourself flying back and forth between different styles of investing, not 100% certain about yourself. And one day you're dividend investing only, and another day you're focusing on X, and you're like highly speculative, and you don't know how much of a portfolio allocation you want to each, and etc. Then, it's a book for you to help kind of understand and put some concreteness behind and some forethought into your investing strategy before you lose money. Because my fear is, and I've experienced this personally, is when you shift in between, you kind of get frustrated, you throw your hands up in the air and you use emotions. And when you do that and you switch in between these opportunities, there's a lot of inefficiencies in terms of capital inefficiencies, as well as just like opportunity cost in which that could have been had and that you're no longer getting because it took you too long to do something, or you thought you knew something, or you knew enough about something to be dangerous, but not enough to get yourself out of the right situations or the wrong situations, more likely. And that's the hopes that I hope the book has for people. Joe, Merry Christmas to you, my friend. Merry Christmas. Do your coworkers know about the channel? And also, do you think T-Mobile is a buy due to its Starlink? I don't know about the second part. I would need to do more research on that, but I did hear some rumblings about that. By rumblings, I mean one thing, and I didn't look into it. But do my coworkers know about the YouTube channel? Select coworkers have known about the channel for quite some time. And we had a talent show for year end. We had like a group reservoir engineering discussion where, me and 30 or so of the other reservoir engineers that work in Houston. Reservoir engineering is a subset of petroleum engineering, by the way. So we had some of that, and they asked me what my talent was, and I said, Well, I don't have a talent per se, but I do have a podcast slash YouTube channel that I've been contributing to for 4 or 5 years, pretty significantly, and 6 7 years overall. So, and a lot of people tested. They're like, "Yeah, we know about Matt's channel." So, and a lot of my bosses and stuff, or newer bosses, as of late, know about the channel as well. Maybe not the most recent select bosses, but probably the boss that I had 3 4 years ago before I left for Trinidad. He knows about the channel. His kids watch the channel. They listen to what I invest in, so they're big into it. I used to run a big smoker for a barbecue restaurant. Damn, I probably need to get some tips from you then, my guy. Ahad, Merry Christmas, my friend. Smokers are awesome. I've been having so much fun with yours. I'm curious what kind of smoker you have. Any of you guys have a smoker, or any tips for somebody that's just getting into it? Let me know, because it was either doing smoking meats, or World War II history, or getting into the Roman Empire. So I chose the first, although the Roman Empire and World War II history are also great as well. When beach party? Good question, my man. Hopefully we can get up there. I was supposed to get up there. When was it? It was supposed to be like August or something, and something happened, and unfortunately I couldn't go up there. I was supposed to go hang out with my partner and his wife, and unfortunately I think they had something come up and they had to stay home. So, can you do a quick roundup of bros? What happened for them in 2023? Where are they headed, and expectations? Uh, I will do more of like a long layout when I get the fiscal year 2023 results, which will probably be in the late Jan, early February timeframe. I think that's um, maybe it's the middle of February, maybe it's like the middle of the second quarter that they always, sorry, middle of the second month of the quarter when they report. But I'm pleasantly surprised. I think they're on par for getting closer to that $1 billion revenue mark. And I think with that, they're going to continue to do well from an EBITDA perspective. It looks like their EBITDA is on track. If I remember correctly, they're supposed to be spending about 225 to $250 million this year. I think the point in which they're being looked at through a lens is currently, while they are net income positive, right? So we're not talking about get profitability and waiting for that or anything like that. We're legit just waiting for, when are they going to be EBITDA, sufficiently EBITDA positive where their cash flow break even? Because right now they are currently outspending their cash flow from operations. And so with that, that means they have to issue more debt, or dilute shareholders in order to get to a place where they get the capital. So right now in this environment, it's probably what they just did actually was they issued about $300 million worth of shares to be able to accommodate that. So that increased the share count. Um, and so by, I guess, like 6 or so million shares or something like that. So it increased the share count by like 8 10%, something around those lines, which is why in the third quarter you saw a pretty large drop off from like the $30 range to like the $25 $24 range, where a lot of people picked up some cash or some shares. So shout out to those folks that were believers and saw the long-term vision. But I believe in the second half, at least if they keep their capex at the current pace, which I'm not 100% sure this is going to happen, but I guess we'll find out. If they stay in the 225 to 250 range for capex in the second half of next year, I believe they'll be break even in terms of cash flow. Um, and they won't be burning cash as they are currently today. So they're generating a crap ton of money, and they're investing about 100, I think it's 150 stores, I think, for the year. If I remember correctly, maybe we should just pull up the investor relations for Dutch Bros, because I feel like I'm getting their EBITDA forecasts and their store count forecast mixed up, because I think right now their goal is to get to 180 in EBITDA. And if that's the case, then they're not that far off. And the store count, I think, is supposed to be 150. So they're up 265 a quarter. Let me just double check I'm sharing. Yep. They're at 265 a quarter. Now, generally speaking, the fourth quarter goes down in terms of seasonality, and the first quarter is down. Generally, from the second to third quarter is when they see their big ups. So generally, the thing like now it went from 199 in the third quarter of last year. Everything was kind of hanging around there until and slightly going up for the first two quarters of the year, and then you see a big jump, and that's been if that persists, that's going to be pretty cool. But what I've seen is that for the past 2 years, that's the case. So from the second to the third quarter is where they see their big sequential jump up. So they're running about 53 million in EBITDA per quarter. Last year they were at 28. So I think they're on pace for the 180 million for the quarter. They're going to try to get to 850 stores this year, I think. So we're hoping to get there. Where are the actual numbers? So yeah, here's what they're looking at. So total stores 150, operated stores 130. I think they're going to get to the 950 in terms of the revenue. So I feel very confident about that. This is where I'm kind of concerned about the same stores growth because they're doing a lot of infill. And what I mean infill is like, imagine you have a city like this. And do I have something else that would better represent it? A city like this, they'll probably, let's just say, put 4 or 5 on the outskirts, which is what they've been doing with Houston. And then they start putting in more. And maybe try to pull it up. Yeah, let me just pull it up. Locations, Dutch Bros. And they've talked about this in the in the uh in the earnings reports. Yeah, so here's a perfect example. Can I hide this side? I guess not. But here's a perfect example here. So you have all these locations, which 2, 3 years ago, there was literally half these amount, if not less. Because I think right before I moved to Trinidad in 2019, they were putting their first store, or right as soon as I got back from Trinidad, one of the two. So we're talking like late 2019 to late 2020 is when they first showed up. And I think it was this one because there's a thing called what am I talking about? Oop, switching stuff around. Didn't mean to do that. There's a thing called Handel's Ice Cream, which is a northeastern thing, and there's a Handel's Ice Cream right by there, and that's when I actually saw the first Dutch Bros opening up. But so there's a lot in the Houston area. They're actually just starting to open up in more closer to downtown, and so with that, curious to see like as they continue to increase, like this one just opened up. And so a lot of people probably were going to this one because it was the closest, but now they have the opportunity to go to this one. So while it might increase store revenue overall or company revenue overall, it might not necessarily be as much as if you were to open one up much closer to downtown or something like that. And so they've seen some what they call competition from individual stores. So the same store sales growth, I think, is going to be tough. If they're able to maintain that, even with the infill that they're doing, I'm going to be very impressed because a lot of their stores that they will open, like they'll open 1 or 2 stores in a state, and those will probably gross large because there's no competition for themselves. Of course, there's competition with Starbucks and many others, but no competition between themselves. So anyway, just some food for thought there, and I think that they'll do well in terms of 2024. I fully anticipate that they'll get closer to the 225 to 250 EBITDA. That will kind of get them to a cash flow break even if they stay at 225 to 250 in terms of capex. But my thought is they're going to continue to expand that by about 250,000 to 50 million per annum until we get closer to that 4,000 store range, because that's like the long-term goal in 10 to 15 years, get to 4,000 stores. And so being it's 850 by the end of this year, you still have about 3,100 stores that you still have to open. And so it's going to cost a lot of money. It costs a lot of money. So that's a South Park joke. But I'm trying to think. So with that, I think as their EBITDA grows, my hope is that they get to a place where the EBITDA and the cash flow from operations is sufficient to cover the capex and then some, so they can continue to build some cash and be able to have some opportunities for opening up roasteries that'll help with margins, etc. But I don't know where their capex spend is planning on going. It's going to take, if you just do 3,100 stores and divide that by 150, that takes 20 years, right? So you can't do 3,100 stores and only be opening 150 per annum, right? So if you think about it, 3,150, if you wanted to do it in 10 years, which is the fast pace, you're gonna have to open up at least 315 stores. So you're gonna have to double that capex number, and that's assuming that costs remain flat. So you're also looking for lower abilities to lower the total amount of capex, right, and get more cost efficiency. So we're looking for that as well. But if you think about from a long term perspective, if you look at 15 years rather than 10, you only have to open up 210 stores per annum. So I'm curious where their sweet spot is. I'm sure they're probably going to end up somewhere where they can open up between 200 and 315, which means that their capex budget is going to have to increase by 40% to at least double, right? So I think that you're going to get to a place where as EBITDA grows, they're probably going to increase the capex as well. What I don't know is if like they're going to wait a year or two until the capex continues to get large enough where they can grow it with time to kind of hang around that cash flow break even number on an annual basis, or if they're just going to try to just like push through it, use debt, use dilution. That's going to be the bad part if they use dilution, because obviously nobody wants that. But my hope is they get to they have $300 million that are just now on the balance sheet, which has been announced after the Q3 earnings. So I'm hoping, with those proceeds, they can fund at least a year's worth of growth with those proceeds and not have to tap into the coffers. But at what point and how do you structure that capital growth going forward? And so all of that, just being said, and then I'll move on to some more questions. All the while they have Cosmics, and everyone's freaking out about Cosmics and McDonald's opening up. But you have to think they have one store at the end of 2023 versus 850, and then they're going to open up another 10 stores or so. And with those 10 stores, um, that's going to get you to the end of 2024. And so, you have 10 stores versus 850. I think Dutch Bros will be okay. But I'll keep in mind, like maybe they'll say, well, this is going swimmingly. We need to open up 100 stores by the end of 2026. That would get me scratching my head a little bit to be like, okay, how good is this comparatively? So I don't think, at least in the next, medium term, 2 to 5 years, I don't think Cosmics is really going to have a hamper on the growth of Dutch Bros. But I think long term, it's something to consider. But my question is like, what am I actually fighting for here? And I'm looking for the 5 to 10 year range. While I like Dutch Bros, I like their products. I think that's a good opportunity. I don't know if it's something that I could see myself holding for like 10 years, right? I'd probably take that capital and look for another opportunity. So I might keep some of it, especially if they end up paying a dividend or something like that. But for now, they're going to be such in an expansion phase that I can't wish them to do a dividend or buyback or anything of the like unless they truly are starting to throw off so much cash. So hopefully that gives you some color on my current thoughts about the bros. Thoughts about emerging markets looking at ETFs that are Asian ex China. I don't know. The thing I struggle with is all of our companies in the United States are all so non-US focused as well that you kind of get that exposure. Granted, I guess the question is that like I always ask somebody when they kind of like think about this is like, are you looking for exposure outside of the United States from a currency perspective or just having exposure to international business? So you think about it, Apple's selling iPhones in China. They're selling iPhones in Asia. And same with Google. Google, maybe not so much in China, but the rest of Asia, Google is also very present. So I try to understand like where people are coming from. Like, are they trying to diversify outside of the United States because they feel like that they're only investing in US companies. And it's like, well, from that perspective, like you are getting in it. Like I lived in Trinidad and Tobago, and everything was imported. So, like, you have these countries that, while we always think about how much America imports, a lot of these countries import American goods too. They were selling Procter and Gamble toothpaste from Crest. They were selling, um, all these different other companies. They were importing laundry detergent. They were importing Coca-Cola. They were importing Lay's potato chips. So all these national products, which we think is like not not being exported. It's like these things are being exported, and you are getting that exposure as a holder in Pepsi. You are getting exposure as a holder of Coca-Cola. You are getting exposure as an owner in Procter and Gamble. So my question is are you afraid of the US dollar? Well, then that's a different discussion, right? Should you be investing more in, say, different currencies rather than the United States currency? Now, that's a different discussion that that stuff goes over my head. But if that's truly a concern of yours and you want that diversity, I would say lean more towards the crypto market rather than, but then that just gets into a whole nother kind of tailspin. So to me, and this is just my bias because emerging markets really haven't done all too well. Unless you can focus, I wouldn't invest broadly in emerging markets. I would find a market that is running super hot. Like India right now is absolutely blown off the charts. And I don't know if that is specific towards specific stocks that their multiple is expanding at a very rapid pace and the earnings growth is not keeping up with that, or if that is, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, or if it truly is, um, the companies are growing at that fast of a pace, and the multiple can't keep up, right? So I think it's one or the other, and I don't know the answer, but it's worth investigating because the Nifty 50, I think is what they call it, has been absolutely killing it this year. And yeah, you're sitting in Hanes right now, my Willie. You're my guy. Personally, I've been hanging out in all day PJ bottoms, dude. Nothing wrong with it. 30% VGT, which I think is the Vanguard technology. 30% SOXX, which I believe is the iShares semiconductor. 30% TQQQ, which is near and dear to my heart. Triple leverage NASDAQ 100, and then 10% spec stocks. Godspeed. The volatility on that will be immense, but I think if things continue to go well and AI continues to do as it is doing, I think you will do okay. But as long as you can stomach the volatility, that is all I can say, and you hold on for dear God, that'll be the biggest roller coaster ride of your lifetime. Bailey showing up here. As always, Miss Bailey, hope you were doing phenomenal and things are going well. Meta Mike, it was great seeing you on the Finance Junkies yesterday. Hopefully you're doing really well and you're having a Merry Christmas. Bailey, I forgot to say Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you, Miss Bailey. Or as you would say, Happy Christmas. Happy Christmas over there across the pond. Merry Christmas. Thanks for the content. No, man, thank you for showing up and the consistent support. That's all I asked for. Just trying to help people out. Look into Kava if you like bros. I liked Kava, and it actually didn't trade awful at a price range. I just see the thing that with Kava, it actually was at a pretty decent price to potentially pick up. So I think Chris and I talked about Kava. Those of you guys don't know, Kava is like a Mediterranean food brand, kind of like a Chipotle, but for more like Mediterranean. And I think when it came out, I was looking at it in the 50s and it dipped down. And now that it's kind of gone on a little bit of a jog because it's up about what? Yeah, I was about to say 30%. Oh, in the past month, even. So this is one to look at. I'm curious. I'd have to look at it again. They're getting to a place I think where their EBITDA is okay. and they're getting to a place where their cash flow break even is if they're able to consistently deliver. But I don't know. These coffee places, except if you're like talking about Luckin's coffee or whatever the heck it was called in China, generally speaking, these coffee places have more sustainability than a restaurant. I see so many restaurants come and go. Um, it's just my personal preference. I'm just chatting here, so I'm not talking anything like concrete. But my fear is that like people will be like all about kava. The next year they'll do something else and they'll be into a different company. Versus coffee, I feel like has a little bit more staying power. Um, Merry Christmas to you, Mirjan. How many shares of Palantir are you looking to accumulate? Was your minimum time frame for holding? To be honest with you, I always think about, do I have too many shares? I have 4,000. If we get down to below $15 again, which I don't foresee happening, because I'm kind of like sitting here between, are we always going to be in this no man's overpriced land? Um, or are we actually going to like stair step ourselves? I wouldn't be surprised if we go below 15, but I'm not expecting it. So if we do go below 15 again, I'd like to get to 6,000 shares. It all just depends on if the money's there. So I should have a pretty good influx of capital here. Not sorry, I'm like off center. Sorry. Should have like an okay influx of capital here in like not too early into the new year. Probably what is it, the third month, sorry, of the new year. I think I got my bonus. So with that, maybe I'll buy some more. We will see. George, what's going on, my guy? Merry Christmas to you. Sorry, I didn't finish your question, John. So I'm at 4,000 shares now. I'd like to get to 5 to 6 ish. If the price really, really drops, maybe 10, but it all depends on the market cap. I don't really look at the share price as much rather than the market cap. I really would like to see them buy back stock within the next 2 to 3 years. George, my guy, part of the money gang, gang, gang. Hopefully you're doing well, my man. Do you mean OpEx, not CapEx? I don't sorry, my man. 517. I don't know if you're talking about Dutch Bros here. It's hard when you're looking past a few things. Mike K, what's going on, my guy? Merry Christmas to you. V, Merry Christmas, my guy. Juan, anything for you, my man. I'm looking forward to the bros. Would you sell Black Sky to Lost to add more Rocket Lab, or do you think Black Sky could be a good long-term hold? I'm actually really looking at Black Sky as a small speculative position, not a big one. I think that they're doing well. I think my fear with Black Sky is, while I think that they might be profitable, will they actually get the revenue growth needed to be a spot where it could grow pretty massively? And I'm just trying to understand. It's like, well, if I own Black Sky, why would I not just take that opportunity and put it into Rocket Lab, unless I think that Black Sky would be a better returning position? Because Rocket Lab is a much more diverse business, and it's a space systems and like an end-to-end space company. And so with that, I see that it has more longevity and it has more breadth, and so it can rely on different parts of the business during certain times, versus Black Sky is very focused. And that's not a bad thing per se, and I think that they're doing well stepping themselves towards towards EBITDA, being EBITDA positive. It'll probably take some more quarters for them to be net gap income positive because of share-based compensation and depreciation, etc. But I think they're getting themselves close from a cash in perspective to being cash flow break even. So I think they're stepping in the right directions. For me personally, while it might be I'm literally probably going to keep a small position in it if I do get into Black Sky, just for tracking purposes, from like an analyst like looking at it perspective, not because I truly think it'll make more outsized returns than say a Rocket Lab. And I think from a capital exposure perspective, I would choose Rocket Lab, which has more of an opportunity to excel than a than a Black Sky. There's more companies trying to do what Black Sky does and can do it, I guess, as well as Black Sky might be able to do it, than companies that are doing what Rocket Lab is doing. And Rocket Lab, while you might not say is currently um, cash flow break even because it's currently burning costs or burning cash, uh, I think they're close enough to get themselves to a place where they're going to be able to keep the lights on. Um, so, but I think Black Sky could be a long term hold. To answer your question, I just think comparing the two is where it gets a little iffy. Jules, Merry Christmas, my guy. Thank you for joining us. Lord's Light, what's going on? Merry Christmas to you, my man. Let's all kick in the green screen funds. I know, man. I couldn't afford the green screen anymore. Actually, I have a few pictures of the old apartment, and I should every once in a while just put it up there just to give people some shit. I bet Bros has 20 plus locations in San Antonio plus one in New Braunfels and Seguin. I know they're blowing up in all the Texas major cities. So Dallas Fort Worth has been absolutely exploding with it. Are you familiar with Amazon purchasing PillPack Pharmacy Benefits Management? I'm familiar with them getting into the pharmaceutical space, or pharmacy delivery space, not pharmaceuticals per se, but the pharmacy delivery space, which is part of the reasons why I sold out of my realty income and bought more S&P 500, and I forget what else I bought with the realty income money. It might have been Nextera or something like that. But am I familiar with the PillPack Pharmacy Benefits Management? No, but the e-pharmacy thing scares the crap out of me. It's why I sold out of realty income, and that coupled with slippage and people stealing and stuff like that. So that's part of it. Sorry, I'm still showing Kava on here. So that's part of the reason why I got rid of that bad boy. But I think it's bullish from an Amazon shareholder perspective. I'm bullish on it. So that's part of the reason why I like Amazon so much is they're able to do well. It hurts other businesses for sure, but it makes things more cost effective. Maddie Mula, Merry Christmas. Ricardo, thank you for showing up. Merry Christmas to you and your family. Be safe these days, especially if you're here in Houston. A lot of fireworks going off that people are mistaking as gunshots. It's pretty funny. My Ring app has just been going off for the past 12 hours, like gunshots. I'm like, that is a firework, but we'll keep it. There have been some gunshots for sure, but sure, just fun out here in Texas, living the dream. Ricardo, once again, Merry Christmas to you, and thank you for being part of the Money Gang. You're the man. Merry Christmas, Journeyman. Hopefully things are going well for you and your family, and appreciate you wishing me a Merry Christmas. So it seems like I'm down to the bottom here. If you guys have any more final questions, we'll hang out for another few minutes. I'm at 184 degrees, got the ribs on the smoker. They need to come off here at about 6 degrees or so, but I have some time. Before I need to run down there and get them off the smoker. So, but we had a good chat here. I ended up being about an hour. And while I wanted to hop on after Amit, I wanted to hop on an Amit stream yesterday, talk a little bit about Rocket Lab, but I was gaming with some of my buddies. Haven't talked to them in a few days because they've been so busy with just friends, family, and everything of the like because it's the holiday. Hadn't had a chance to chat with them. So I was gaming with them last night. And then by the time it got on, it was too late to the point where I could kick off my own stream. So could I please take a look at AEHR? Sure. One of these days. AEHR. Air. Is this the cooler company? Burn-in Products Semiconductors. That is not the cooler company. Sure. I will mention it to Hot Chris. Mr. Cold, Merry Christmas to you, guy. Hopefully things are doing well. And while I have 62 of you on here, please be sure there's the message or there's a link in the description to our Cash Flow Chronicles channel. For those of you guys that haven't joined us yet over there, The link is in the description. It would mean a lot to me and Chris. If you guys like these live streams, specifically the ones where we go more and more into details, I'm uploading a backlog for you guys, literally of every one that me and Chris have done. So I started 5 days ago. You can see some of them already have 400 views. So appreciate you guys continue to watch those. We're up to 200 views on some. So that helps us a lot. We're trying to get to the 1,000 subscriber, 4,000 watch hour time so we can start to monetize this. But if you guys missed some of these things that have been put out, because Chris and I are almost on our 60th episode already, we've talked about a lot of cool shit. Payout ratios over 100%, all-time highs. This one's recent. This was number 56. This one was probably last week. Should you stay invested? Oil. We talked about oil a bunch of times. We had Hot Steven on the other day talking about energy transfer. These are this one's a new one. This one was literally last Wednesday. So literally less than a week ago. Oil, this was one of the first ones me and Chris talked about. I talked about why I didn't invest in Enphase, and this was before it crashed there in the October, November timeframe. And so literally go through the balance sheet, the revenue stream, why I didn't do it and why I didn't invest. And it turned out to be the right decision at the right time. So a lot of cool things. Palantir, Celsius is coming out tomorrow. So you guys that are into Celsius and want to know what my thoughts are, it's positive, by the way, but the share price has even gotten better in that perspective since I did this one in September or so. So with that, could look at that. This one was one of the first times I talked about Rocket Lab, specifically on Cash Flow Chronicles. I've been talking about Rocket Lab now on the channel personally on this one for the last 2.5 years. But this was the first time I kind of talked about it in Cash Flow Chronicles. This one was one of the first few that I did. So there's some updates since then. But a lot of stuff, man. And I'm trying to add a few every day. So it might get to the point where, we have too many damn things in the backlog that I eventually just release all of them as much as I can, just to kind of get up to current. But yeah, it'll be nice to eventually roll over to there and get segregated with respect to how much money we're making, so me and Chris can continue our public investment portfolio. It's very fun. Very underrated channel. You definitely know more than some YouTubers that have over 100K subs. I appreciate that. It's not necessarily about the sub count. It's about the quality of people getting a good education. I know I might not necessarily have the best quality or the best videography, or I'm not the most articulate. But I think when it comes to actually providing true value to the people and letting people take control of their own personal investment journey, I surpass many. Because many people will unfortunately just give you a ticker symbol. And unfortunately, that's part of the educational piece, is like breaking down that barrier, because so many people think, okay, I just need the one magic ticker symbol and I'll be done. And I still have friends that I've talked to over the past 10 years, and I will chat with them once a quarter and, give them a little 5-10 minute, and they still just always want to know what's the ticker symbol. And I'm like, dude, like the amount of time that you want to dedicate, just put it in SPY, and they just refuse to acknowledge it. But I think there's that piece where you really need to understand, and that's part of what the book is that I'm going to be releasing hopefully in 2024, is specifically talking about understanding yourself, understanding how you understanding yourself can relate immediately back to how you invest and what you invest in, and to not get yourself into trouble. I don't think that the capex is high because they build stores and sell real estate with triple net leases for a profit. That's one of the questions I have from one of my buddies, because he works in construction. Same buddy that I own the Airbnb with. We talk about this a little bit because we, from a, I'm assuming you're talking about Dutch Bros. I'm curious if that's what you're referring to, because we see them talk about them building it, and I'm curious if they buy the land and then like find somebody to build it for them and then they lease it back or what have you, because they're popping up all over the place. So would love to hear your thoughts on Prologis. Prologis is one that I was actually introduced to by Miss Bailey, Bailey MX, and she talked a little bit about it, and I missed the boat on this one. And I know I had an opportunity over the past few months to pick some up for cheap, and I just never got around to it. So there's that. Um, so yes, eventually I'll write that one down, and me and Hot Chris will be able to talk about it. Do you think there will be a dip in the first quarter next year in overall market? If so, how do you plan to approach it? I'm a person that just continues to invest capital. And so I think if there's opportunities where you see that you've seen outsized returns that you think will regulate themselves. So take, for example, there's some really good like macro trends gives you an idea, in terms of price to earnings ratios and stuff like that. If you see outsized returns, or like fast graphs is really good to see if you've had outsized returns. What do I mean by outsized returns? I mean the multiple is expanding way faster than the earnings or multiple expanding. The earnings multiple, price to earnings, or just the cash flow in terms of like how much. Let's just say it went from 15 to 20 very quickly. Or in the case of Apple, from 2013 to 2023. So over the course of the last decade, maybe it was more like 2008 timeframe, but 10, 15 years. At one point, Apple was trading at an 8.5 times price to earnings multiple. Now it's trading at a 38 times price to earnings multiple. So yes, it has grown its earnings by 3x since that time frame. And yes, they bought back almost 50% of the float. So I get that. That's where you get 6x return. But that other major increase in the share price has been through earnings multiple expansion. So instead of trading for $8 per dollar of earnings, you're paying $38 per dollar of earnings. Doesn't necessarily make sense. So what I'm trying to say is if you see some companies who've had some outsized returns, say you are overweight in Palantir and you did a really good job buying at 6 and now it's at 15, 17 bucks, or SoFi, or any of these other companies where you've had hundreds of percent returns. It's not to say that was bad investment. It's just to say, do you want to find something that's maybe more stable in the long term? Now, do I think that the overall market for fiscal year 24, so the next 12 months, will be down? I don't think so. There will be times within that 12-month period that I think it will be down. I'm under the firm belief that still people think that we're going to be cutting rates in the March timeframe. I think there's going to be a sad reality over the next 2 months or so that makes people realize we are not. And so that's going to probably push things into early spring or early summer before we actually get those cuts. And so once that gets realized, I think you'll see a 5 to 10% pullback. We've been running a little hot. I think that we can easily see some pullback in, if not next week, the next couple weeks. I just think that that's just how the market goes, right? 5-10% is pretty regular, and it happens, once or twice a year. So more than 10%, I could see it, but at the moment, unless if it was sustained more than 10%, I'd be surprised. I could see it, flash. I don't want to say flash crash, because that makes it seem like, but I could see it briefly going down to 15% and then rocketing back up on a pivot point. But do I see it sustained for more than a month, down more than 10%, going towards 15%? I do not. And that's just kind of my thought process. But for me, I just continue to buy because I can't predict it, man. Like I can't. And so I might get a little bit more cash. Fortunate for me, the first quarter, I always get a little bit more cash. So with that, I'll probably sit on that and wait for an opportunity to buy a little bit more shares. But I take these opportunities when the market is really high to consolidate a little bit and look towards, if I were to be in a downturn, what companies would I want to be in, and try to understand, because a lot of times when you have these market run-ups, I always expand the amount of positions. Oh, this looks cool. Oh, this looks cool. Oh, that's doing well. Let me put some money over here. And you start to understand, like, the hell? Like, you get caught up a little bit in the bull market, mentality. And to me, I end up buying a couple of companies that I didn't really want to. It just looked good and pretty at the time. So I ended up buying it, to just to be a part of it, right? So it'd be like if I bought Black Sky. It's like I probably don't ever want to expand Black Sky into a $50,000 to $100,000 position like I want to do for Google and Palantir and Rocket Lab. So, like, why hold Black Sky, right? I have a lot of those in the portfolio where I'm just like, damn it, I bought $1,500 of it. And when you look at the grand scheme of things, 1,500 might be a lot to you. It's not really to me. So it's like, why even have that? Is 1,500 bucks actually going to turn into 50 grand? Probably not, right? I should probably put that 1,500 bucks into Palantir or something like that. So, um, just some thoughts. That's how I generally approach when things are getting a little hot. Can appreciate all the good notes that you've been putting for us and many of the other investor community folk on X. Much appreciated. Merry Christmas to you. People copycat trade everything except the index. Exactly. Spy to the moon, man. Appreciate you hopping on. I appreciate you guys for showing up on a day that you normally spend with friends and family. So it's always a blessing and have almost 60. We have up to 70 people at some points in this stream to hang out with you guys on a day like today is absolutely phenomenal and much appreciated when you guys could be spending that with your friends and family. It just goes to show how much of a great community we're finding here of people that love investing, which is great. Prologis is still trading at a fair price. Going to build a position, quality REIT with growth potential. I agree, and I don't necessarily. Well, I don't. I agree that it has growth potential. I don't know the numbers, so I can't say if it's cheap or overpriced. I see people throw things like value and this and that, but it's trading at above a 30 times price to earnings, so not very value if that is the case. So, some questions about price to funds from operations and stuff like that is what I'd have to look into and see if it's actually value and a fair price. So I'd have to do my own due diligence with respect to that. But I'm curious in terms of expansion going into the future for Amazon and who their top clients. If Amazon is one of them, it's something I'm definitely considering because I have Stag Industrial, which I love Stag. And that's another one where I'm like, should I just sell it, take the 25 or 30 grand, whatever it is for the position and just move that to the SPY as well. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. How do you see Bros doing over the next 4 years? From a company delivery perspective, I see it doing extremely well. I know that's not the answer that you wanted, but I can't tell you what the stock price is going to be in 4 years, my guy. I'm really sorry. I wish I could. In terms of a crystal ball, I haven't really given some thought. I kind of have at the moment where we are today out to where I think we'll be in 15 years or so. And I think it'll grow into 15 years at a 4,000 store count. I think it'll grow into a 20 to $25 billion business. So that's a 4 or 5x from where we are today. And that's where I think I have it at the moment. In terms of 4 years, the CapEx can change so much. I could say they're going to keep store count at 150 for the next 4 years, and they're going to grow by 600 stores in the next 4 years, and X, Y, and Z. And it's like they might grow by 1,000 stores. And my prediction could be completely off. But if it's up to me, I think that they'll be able to continue to grow. I think they'll be at close to 1.2 billion in terms of revenue in the following fiscal year 24. And let's just see. I mean, if they're able to grow it at 20%, they're going to be at 1.7 to maybe 2 billion in the next 4 years, and that might be conservative. But once you get the rule of large numbers in there, anything's kind of possible. And so let's just say they do get to 2 billion, and they're able to pull off a net margin of close to 15%. I want to eventually see them get to close to 20% for a net margin. But let's just say that is where they're at. And then what was I doing here? Let's times that by divide that by that. Let's just times that by a 45-ish PE. I could see them being worth, double what they are today, between 10 and $15 billion. And that's without dilution or anything like that. So I can see the stock price going to 60 to 80 bucks, over the next 4 years or so. And I think that I could see happening, but I also don't know what their CapEx is going to look like either. And that's using net margin too, right? Like if I were to use EBITDA margin and give that a a 30 times multiple. So let's do that. Let's just do 2 billion times the EBITDA margin. Let's just say it's closer to 25% and times that by 30. Yeah, I could see 10 to 15 billion rather easily, but that's all dependent upon how many shares there are, right? So if they dilute the crap out of everybody, you're kind of screwed. Dex talking to Fabio. I don't see a Fabio unless that's DD. Julius Caesar, my guy. Merry Christmas, Julius Caesar. Most people celebrate on Christmas Eve. You love Stag as well. Matt, if the Eagles don't cover the spread, should a guy sell all stocks to pay off bet or use money to fake identity and move to Canada? Knowing me and growing up around the Philadelphia area, I'm like 95% sure that the Eagles won't cover the spread because they've always let me down. And very few times they have not. And that's part of the reason why I'm not an Eagles fan, is because they let me down so much. So there's that. Don Juan, what is going on, my guy? Much appreciated. Merry Christmas to you. McKinley, Merry Christmas to you, my friend. I don't think I've seen you on the stream as of yet, so Merry Christmas for you. Where do you see Shell long term? They have a pretty minimal growth long term, but I like their transition outlook compared to other oil majors. You know, if you're specifically looking at this for transition, it's kind of upsetting me a little bit where Shell is kind of pulled back in terms of, because I was really banking on Shell to potentially be the leader in renewable transition, and it seems like they're kind of pulling back a little bit. I think it has a little bit to do with like BlackRock and many other companies starting to pull back their investments in specifically the renewable space and the transition space. So I think Shell will do fine long term. They have plenty of cash flow to lean on to be able to transition, and they already have a substantial position that I think can continue to grow at pace in solar and wind. The company that I think will do well at, and I've actually like been thinking about this. Do I make this big bet, right? Because I actually work a lot with Shell on my day-to-day basis, and I really like how they conduct business, and they're great operators of oil and gas assets. I don't really know much about their transition businesses from a personal perspective, right? I could see it from a business perspective and looking at it, you know, on paper. But from like an operations perspective, I literally see from an operations perspective how well Shell manages their oil and gas business and in the deep water Gulf of Mexico, and they do a phenomenal job. Maybe I shouldn't have said that last piece, but from a personal standpoint, I've seen how they do business, and I'm very impressed. In terms of where I think they will be, I've actually seen a lot of things coming out of Total space, from LNG, Total Energies, meaning from LNG, the renewable side, the ambition to push towards over 100 gigawatts, and how they're delivering that today. And it honestly makes me think, do I take the big swing, and will Total continue to be the leader in that space? And it makes me kind of like scratch my head and try to understand, you know, is Total actually going to be the one that leads in that space? And you know, I'm literally trying to find through all of this NextEra, Orsted. You know, I don't think it's going to be Orsted, but I think Orsted's going to be a takeover target in 2025. Reason being, the Danish government, I think, has a piece of it until 2025. And once that happens, does the Danish government continue to own 51% of Orsted? I don't know. Or is it going to be split up into multiple ownerships, etc.? I don't 100% know. And I think that's something to consider long term. So shout out to 83 of you in the chat. Much appreciated. You guys spending some time with me here on Christmas Day. Answering some questions from some friends. So in terms of long term, you know, I could see it between Shell and Total, and I think the thing that I'm looking for is who's going to be the Saudi Aramco of this renewable space, right? When I mean that, I mean Saudi Aramco makes about 9 million barrels, 12 million if you include oil equivalents a day, but let's just take the liquids piece, which is 9 million. The oil and gas industry makes about 100 million barrels of oil, specifically crude oil, on a day-to-day basis. So Saudi Aramco owns 9% of that. Who is going to be the person that owns 9% of the electrical grids around the world? And currently the leader right now is NextEra. But as we transition to 3,000 gigawatt energies, 4,000 hours, not hours, gigawatts per day in terms of capacity, by the end of 2030, who's going to be the one that's controlling that, right? NextEra at the moment is currently at like 30 gigawatts. They're going to get closer to 60 odd gigawatts by 2025, 2026. So even then, if they were to sustain at 60 gigawatts and we were only to get to 3,000 gigawatts in terms of capacity by 2030, they're 2% market shareholder, right? So, is NextEra going to be able to continue to grow by 2030 to be a 3%, 4%, 5% market shareholder? And if that's the case, I'm fucking buying in. You know what I mean? Like that, you think about that. And so NextEra is currently the largest renewables provider in the United States, if not the world. And so if they're continuing at pace to be that, it's a great company to be in for the long term. It might not necessarily blow shit out of the water. It might not be a 20x return or anything like that, but it's going to be a great place to store capital. So there's that. But that's my thought process on the whole thing. I don't view it as oil specific this day and transitions this day. I'm viewing it as like, where are we going in 20, 30 years? And I want to be invested. So the company might not even be around that I eventually end up in. But my thought process is like, there's so much going on right now. Orsted, NextEra, Shell, Total, BP, Chevron, Shell, Exxon, like all these players will eventually combine. In the next 10 years, there will be a clear person who's going to be the leader. So anyway, CCI over Prologis. Chris, that's a Chris Patel question. He's more the guy around the cell tower REITs. We have CCI in the public portfolio, but I don't know much about it. I've ever heard of MAA. Maybe not MAA, but maybe the company. I have not heard of them. Are you excited about Costco's special dividend? I don't have Costco in the portfolio. I thought about buying some, but I did not. What all bets are you making? Buffett is buying Oxy. Been looking at Petrobras. Any thoughts there? I get a lot of exposure. So, I just keep reinvesting my Shell dividends. I have my, I might have to go here soon. It's only 186. I thought it was 188. I get some shares through work as well for undisclosed oil company. So, I don't necessarily go out and buy a lot of stuff on the open market. Chris and I in the public portfolio, we bought Oxy. I think it's a little bit premature. I think that if things clear up in the Red Sea, which they seem to have, oil price will probably continue to trend downwards. I don't see a reason at the moment for it to spike up here. It's seasonally the lower months of crude prices. Now, if it kind of sustains here at the $70 to $80 range and we get closer to summer, then I'd be a little bit more inclined. But it's not a very good year, right? Right now, not a very good season right now for oil and gas. And it might be a buy low, sell high sort of thing here. But to me, I think that there's an opportunity for it to continue to go lower from here. But I think that there's limited downside. There's more potential for long-term upside. But there's that. Do you have Accor like Sexy Chris? I don't have it in the public portfolio. And I invest very differently from Chris. Chris is more of like a multiple position kind of guy. I just kind of have my stuff that I just buy and hold, SPY. That's just more my style. I'll find things that I like. And if I find things I like, I do swing trades from now and again, but they're rare and few far between. If I find something, I generally will buy into something now where I plan to hold it for a good 5 to 10 years. David Wallace, Merry Christmas, my guy. Much appreciated you showing up. Merry Christmas to Tony as well. Would you buy more Rocket Lab at the moment? 100%. If I had $100 grand right now in cash, I would 100% buy more Rocket Lab at the moment. Echoes, I appreciate you saying that on Christmas, although I know you don't believe that is the truth. But I would say the majority of which I would be buying the S&P 500. And a lot of that would be just be because I like the covered calls. I love the covered call income that I'm able to generate off of it, and it's super far out of the money, but I like it. I get a 1.6% yield from the SPY, and that's not really what I'm looking for. It's just a little bit of extra love that you get at the end of the day. And writing some covered call income, I think I did some looking. It was like overall in the portfolio, and this is going to be like, oh my god, it was like a 1.3, maybe 1.5. I had to do that video, but I think I made about 1.3 to 1.5% additional yield on the portfolio doing covered calls. So keep in mind, I don't write covered calls on all my positions, and also I stay very far out of the money. I buy the stocks because I like them and I want to keep them. They're my golden geese. So, um, you know, I'm not a guy like TJ, and that's just not to say that TJ is wrong. It's just we invest differently when it comes to selling covered calls. So, GE might be a good bet. 2-year backlog for Transformers only. I don't know, man. It's a little niche. I'd have to look at it specifically. Uh, Kyle Mitchell, much appreciated. Merry Christmas, my guy. I've been following you since I was in college a few years ago. Was huge into dividend investing at the time. Shifted over the years. Appreciate all the hard work with Cash Flow Chronicles. Learned a lot. Much appreciated, my man. My strategy as well has changed pretty significantly from not having a decent amount of money to now getting closer to a place where in some places of the world, majority of the world, I could retire. And with that, it just makes me understand could continue to invest in the long term. I don't need the money today. I'm only 32, so I'll probably be working at least for the next 4 or 5 years. I like what I'm doing and can't complain with it. So why would I leave my job at the moment? So with that, I recognize that it wasn't necessarily about dividends. It was about long-term appreciation, and figuring out an opportunity, because I need to figure out, I'm never going to retire, right? If I were to retire, one, it'd have to be at a stalemate in my job where I don't think I'm going to continue to climb the organization. Like I said, I really do enjoy what I do, and I love providing energy to people through my day-to-day job. And so if I'm able to continue to do that, I would stay there, until I unfortunately have to retire, be forced to retire, or I just am too tired. But if that's the case, and if I do eventually end up having to leave, I'd like to have a business that I can keep myself occupied, because I don't plan on retiring and just like coasting up on a beach somewhere, right? I probably would for a month or two, but even like the last week and a half, it's been fun to hang out at home, but I'm bored as shit. Like that's why I'm doing a live stream on fucking Christmas. Like if I wasn't doing this, I'd probably be playing video games or being bored out of my mind. So I like talking about stocks. I like keeping my mind occupied and not being, there's only so much Netflix and stuff like that you could watch. Echoes, can I be a guest on your channel? I'd like to talk about why Palantir is the greatest stock ever. No, just because of the way that you've treated me in other live streams, and I'm being polite. I am not going to invite you on there. So hopefully you can do some reflection on Christmas and understand why I'm saying that. And hopefully you have a Merry Christmas, and I'll be the bigger person and not get into any sort of brawl. But hopefully you have a great Christmas and do well. And hopefully your channel and everything continues to persist as well. McKinley, thanks for your answer on Shell and Nextera. Big positions for you. Love watching your vids. I'll make exclusively parsing through for oil major thoughts. Yeah, and unfortunately I can't give as much detail, right? Because I have to make sure I keep my personal and business life somewhat separate. So Big Pharma Shill, what's going on, my guy? Merry Christmas to you. Not with Iran escalating right now. I think that'll subside. Personally, I don't know for certain, right? Wanted to buy Costco when it was under under 125, but never did. I'm with you. I'm right there with you, my guy. Rocket Lab is still undervalued. I concur. RKT, RCKT, Rocket Pharmaceuticals. Got it. I don't know anything about Rocket Pharmaceuticals. You might be right, my guy. You might be right. ROGL. Times that echoes. He was trolling. I don't know what he said, other than specifically the first two things. Cover calls on what? I do cover calls on SPY, Google, Palantir when the price is appropriate. What else? Why am I drawing a blank? Google, Amazon, SLG. I've done some this year. Amazon, Google. Let me see. What else I got? I don't know why I'm drawing a blank. Let me see here. Let's make sure I'm not sharing my screen. Okay, good. It's taking a second too. Wonder why. Oh. Thank you, by the way, Amit, for timesing him out. I don't know what he was saying other than what he said the first two times. Yeah, Amazon, Google, Orsted a little bit, but like I said, far out of the money. Dutch Bros, I have a $35 call for January on right now. Yeah, Nextera. Oh, Pepsi. I've been writing calls on Pepsi this whole time. Pepsi is one of those ones where I might actually sell out of, by the way. I still have 150 shares. I used to have 220 some shares, but it's like I love Pepsi, but do I really see Pepsi doubling in the next 5-10 years? And the answer is probably not, but I do see the SPY doubling by the end of the decade. So yeah, Palantir when it's appropriate. Shell, I do write a lot of cover calls on. Like right now, I have the $70 January calls, and those are up 63%. I sold them for 55 cents. They're currently worth 20. I have my SoFi spreads, the 10 and 15 for January 2026. That's up $100. I only have two of those though, small. So SPY, I have the 483 calls for next week. They're up 17%. Sold it for 25. It's currently sitting at 21. Stag, the volume on Stag is too low to write cover calls. TQQQ, I also write cover calls on. So TQQQ, I have the 56 calls for this week, ending on the 29th. That's up 12% at the moment. I wrote those for 6 cents. It's currently at 5 cents. So, and you might say like 5 cents, 6 cents, it's not a lot, but it's like when you have 40 contracts for Palantir, or you have 5 contracts for SPY, or you have 13 contracts for TQQQ, yeah, you can end up getting a lot of money. Oh, by the way, Amit, Merry Christmas, my guy. I didn't say Merry Christmas to you. Hopefully you're doing well. Let's talk about Portillo's. God damn it, my guy. Understand. Boba the dog, Merry Christmas as well, even though I don't know much about Portillo's. Chris actually likes Portillo's. I don't know from a stock perspective if he does, but maybe this week. I have to figure out if we're doing the show tomorrow or not. So good prompt because I need to ask him if he's there. I like NEP more than NEE as far as next year's gains. I would agree with you. I think that NEP was getting slapped very hard, and I think that was spilling over to next era because of just the structure of a master limited partnership. And so if NEP has probably recovered handsomely since the October timeframe. And so let's see. 28% over the last month. Yeah. So that sounds about right. So I think I agree with you there. I think it'll be better, but I would prefer to own the shares in NextEra as a whole in the long term. I think NEP, the problem is like that the partnerships always are in this weird space of like they're still owned partly by the organization and rely upon the main organization in some cases, right? So it's always going to be like a step down thing. And so I would prefer just to own NextEra NEE. But I agree with you. If you're looking for the next year, NEP may be the better opportunity because it's so much more reliant on debt. But I think both are going to be very impacted by debt, and that's why you've seen NextEra Energy pull up as well. Um, so I think it's an $80 stock personally right now, and I think a lot of it's impacted just based on the fact that because I think it deserves a premium, right? So it's not trading at a premium right now; it's trading at like 15, 16x earnings, and so to me, I think they're going to be within $4 within the next year or two in terms of EPS. And so, why it's not trading closer to $80 if you're putting a 20x multiple on that? Because you think this thing should be trading at a premium, which because it's the largest provider of energy in the United States, it's also the largest provider of renewables potentially in the world. And so, if you think about it from that perspective, and it's going to continue to grow, right? 28 gigawatts today, not gigawatt hours, right? Tesla, you're talking about 6 gigawatt hours. Next area, you're talking about 28 gigawatts installed. That's 28 gigawatts times that by 24, times that by 90 days. Like that, like we're talking about thousands of hours of gigawatt hours compared to 6 gigawatt hours for Tesla energy. Like the immense scale and pace that they have above like a Tesla energy at the moment is currently huge. So in terms of the ability to provide energy to the people, I like the scale of that. It's growing to 60 gigawatts within the next 2 or 3 years. From 24 to 26, they're supposed to get the 60 gigawatts on overall. So if you think about it, that's well ahead of everybody else in the world in terms of installed. Most people can't even say they have 28 gigawatts installed and in the pipeline, let alone and sanctioned. These guys have 60 gigawatts sanctioned and will be online by 2026. So in terms of that scale, huge. Um, but anyway, Custodon, much appreciated. Thank you for stopping over. I didn't know it was 1 a.m. there. Much appreciated. Merry Christmas to you and the family. Hope everything is doing well. PayPal or Block. I don't know much about either. I've done some looking at PayPal just because everyone talks about it. And I think it's a decent valuation. I just don't know. Like, I want to know where a company's going, and I just don't fully understand it. Like, if it's going to be strictly a buyback play, I could see it being like an AutoZone where the price continues to increase because it has continued to buy back a crap ton of shares, and that's not a bad thing per se. I just would rather put my capital into something that is changing the world. Um, so in terms of changing the world, like PayPal can come up with other solutions, but at the moment, I just don't see it. And I wish everyone well with PayPal, by the way. Like I know a lot of people that are invested in it, so I wish them well. I this is not for me, right? You don't have to invest in every stock. Thanks for the live. Appreciate there are other people that want to talk stocks on Christmas Day. What's your Bitcoin spot ETF thoughts? PS, watch from Ireland. My guy, please get me all around Ireland. I need to go visit, So if you got any thoughts, hit me up on Twitter. If you're on Twitter, hit me up on Twitter. Some places. Farley is a pretty Irish last name, if I don't say so myself. So, obviously we talked about Ireland quite a bit, and not anyone in my immediate family has come from there, but I know the 1850s. What is it? So my dad, his dad, I think it was. There are 5 or 6 generations of my dad's name ahead of me. So I'm the 7th. And I think that it was like 1 or 2 generations. The first generation maybe came over. So I want to say it was like the 1840s or 50s is when my dad's side came over from Ireland. And then they landed in New Brunswick, New Jersey. And then it was my mom's side was also part of it was from she was McCarthy. Um, so probably shouldn't have said that. But anyway, but yeah, so there's a bunch of different lineages that come from Ireland. So yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff about Ireland that I would like to go see. And then I'm trying to think what part of her family moved to where, but eventually they ended up in the Philadelphia area. So really cool. Uh, I missed some stuff. Times out. Uh, where is it? Oh, spot ETF. I use for my spot ETF at the moment. I use Grayscale Bitcoin, GBTC, and I've had that for off and on since 2019, 2020. Does liquidity matter for overall cover call strategies like other strategies? It does, right? Because otherwise, yes and no, right? Like if you don't really care about the price, right? But it's the same thing with like buying and selling stocks. If there's no liquidity, you're probably gonna have to pay a higher price or sell at a lower price than you'd like to. And so it's the same thing with options. The spread can be huge if the liquidity is not there. So you could sell something at 10 cents or you could sell it at 20 cents. Well, it's like, well, what about 15 cents? It's like, well, there might not be anyone sitting in the 15. And so if nobody's sitting at 15, you might have to sell, unfortunately, at 10 cents. And you lose $10, right? And that's unfortunate because liquidity is not there. Versus if a lot of people are sitting there waiting, um, could be good. Also, with low liquidity, there's less contracts. So you have to think each of those, like, well, there's one ticker symbol for, let's just say, the S&P 500. And if you have so many people trading on the S&P 500, there's going to be more ticker symbol, or sorry, not tickers, strike prices as well. So you can trade every dollar on the strike prices for the SPY. And there's one every day now, right? There's so much liquidity now for SPY. There's people trading on Monday for Monday expiration, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday expiration, versus like a VOO, which is the Vanguard S&P 500. Not to say it's bad. In fact, I recommend most people probably use it because the expense ratio is going to be preferred to a SPY. But if you write any sort of covered calls, you'll realize very quickly, and let me just share this, and then I really do kind of got to get going. Because we're at 188 and I got to be downstairs for when it hits 199 or 189. So let me share this. So in terms of VOO options, lower liquidity. And what happens? Well, VOO is, almost the same price as SPY, but you have to go from 430 to 435. Like, what the F is this shit? You know what I mean? Like, and they're talking about expiring next month. This is a big expiry day, January 19th. So like you have a $5 spread on the strike price. And if we open this up, you also have a 630 to 670, right? That's a $40 spread per contract. Like, that's not cool. And then if you go to SPY, this is why I preach SPY so much. But this is because I also sell cover calls, right? Like, I'm a different kind of breed when it comes to that, right? And, I'm not saying it's better or worse. It's just a different breed. So get close to the money, almost the same price, 474, and this aligns more with the S&P 500, right? But you can see it's trading in a dollar increment, right? 473, 474, so 475. So instead of that $5 increment shit that you had to deal with VOO, and you're also trading at a 4-cent spread, so $4 spread versus the $20 spread, $40 spread that you were seeing on VOO. So it's not necessarily a bad thing to be on VOO. It just, you're not going to get as premier of an opportunity. Who are your favorite investors? I like Warren, but I like to listen to everybody. I've really been attached to Tom Lee's hip lately. I like his bullishness. Dude, but you're starting to crack me up with these Portillo's things, man. It's pretty funny. But I mean, I listen to everybody. It's one of the things I've always done pretty good job of, is listen to everybody and formulate your own opinion. And I agree with that sentiment. Merry Christmas, my guy. It's good to hear from you, Hot Dave. Hope things are going well for you, my man. Hope you're doing good, and hopefully you're getting some relaxation in from work. In which order do you prefer companies to allocate capital? M&A, dividends, stock buybacks? Does it depend on company and industry? Very much dependent on company and industry. The older I get, the less I care about buybacks. I would prefer it in some instances, to an extent. Like Palantir, I don't see them doing a lot of M&A because I think they can develop the technologies themselves. So if they're doing such a good job with deploying the software, I think they're going to make so much money in the next 5-10 years. They're going to have to start doing buybacks. I don't really see them getting to a place where they do M&A. Dividends at the moment is nice. I don't want an absurd dividend though, because then I have to pay taxes on it for now. And if I need the dividends and I need to get it now, I'd probably switch to a different company than say Palantir, for example, right? And M&A, I think it all depends on what industry as well. So industry specific for sure, and what you're looking at. Merry Christmas, Mr. Market. Much appreciated you stopping by on Christmas. Hopefully you and your family are safe. Hi, Jida. Merry Christmas, my guy. Hope you're doing well, and hope to see you on a stream here soon with Hot Dave. That's the good times. Bring it back, my guy. Mario, Merry Christmas to you, my man. Do you own SoFi? I own two debit spreads, the 10-15 January 2026 leaps and covered call, I guess. Talking about bros, cool. Hot Kev, Merry Christmas, my guy. Excited for more growth and knowledge in 2024. I'm excited. You inspire me, man. You do. You don't think that you do, but you inspire me. Enjoying a nice joint and beer on the back patio. I love California, sunny and 72. Kevy, you inspire me, guy. You're doing phenomenal. Keep it up, please. I keep in touch with Kev through WhatsApp, and it always inspires me. Bring tears to my eyes to see how well some of these people do, and the persistence. I know how much time, effort, and attention to detail, and strength it requires to do some of this stuff. So I love when I see people continuing to succeed. Except Dave, you're a piece of shit. Just kidding, Dave. Love you. Fuhat, hello. Merry Christmas to you, my guy. I don't know if I've seen you on the stream before. So welcome to the stream. How do I become a great investor like you? I'm not, man. I'm just doing my own thing. If your family came over to America in circa 1850, it would have been due to the famine. Yes, it was due to the potato famine, which is brutal. So your family would have had to endure a lot to survive, even on the boat crossing. Yeah, my man. Farleys are resilient folk. I'm the one like button sad. Was there only one like? Well, Merry Christmas. That's all that matters to me. Mad Matt calling it how he sees it. We will see, my friend. Hopefully everything is going well. Merry Christmas to you as well. I like those emojis. Those toucans? My guy. What I meant was by Bitcoin spot ETF question. I was wondering what you think we might do to prices in the crypto market coupled together with halving. I'm bullish, man. I mean, I don't know where it's going to be. I hope it goes to a couple $100,000. I have about an equivalent of a Bitcoin worth. And so if it goes to a couple $100,000, I sense more beach houses in my future. Watson Alex, Merry Christmas to you. I guess Boxing Day, because you're 4 or 5 hours ahead of me from Great Britain. Well, you're probably ending your Christmas and getting ready for Boxing Day. So Merry Christmas to me. Hopefully you had a very safe and eventful one, full with family, love, and friends. Guys, I got to run. This bad boy is getting at 188. It's about to hit 189. I'm going to get ready to get the broiler on, get some barbecue sauce, and broil these until got the barbecue sauce all caked on top, and have a few of those bad boys. And yeah, I'm going to probably try to finish up watching some good football, but much appreciated. Almost a 2-hour stream. You guys are great, and hopefully you guys please take the opportunity. I'll put the link over here in the comments section. Please take the opportunity, if you have some time, to go over to Cashflow Chronicles, catch up on some of the backlog, and also be sure to like it. Let's see how many, and subscribe to it as well. We're up to 335 subscribers. We're trying to get to 1,000. We have a backlog set all the way, I think, until like mid of January. And then I think I still have probably like 20 to 25 more to upload. So we'll probably get to the end of January before we're fully through the backlog. I might start doing 2 loads a day. And then eventually, I think when we get closer to it, Chris and I will fully transition Cashflow Chronicles. This is not a Cashflow Chronicle episode. So stuff like this will still stay on the Matt Money channel. And those unannounced sort of shit that I'd like to do and hang out and the Rocket Lab videos and Palantir videos, all that stuff, staying on Matt Money. Matt Money's not disappearing. Matt Money's going to be, more succinct than ever. It's just, I love Chris. Chris and I think that this has longevity. We're excited about what Cash Flow Chronicles can be. And we think we've had great reception. A lot of those episodes are getting around 1,000 views, and sometimes even 100 views while we're doing it. And so, really appreciate the support, really appreciate the love, and it allows Chris an avenue to have a little bit more control if he deems it as well. So, Merry Christmas, please, all of you. Be safe. And I know we're winding down. It's 7:30 on the East Coast, and I don't know, is it 4:30 over on the West Coast? But you guys are great, and really appreciate you guys. Really looking forward to a great 2024. Any thoughts, questions, suggestions, throw them in the comment section. Message me on Twitter, DM me on Twitter, what have you. I'll see you guys soon. Cheers, and have a great rest of the holiday.